Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, whoever you are, wherever you may be. Welcome to the Broker Insider, a corner of the internet unlike any other. This is a resource for business owners and entrepreneurs to get information about business funding in an honest and transparent manner. Well, we don't fluff the stuff. We aren't your typical loan brokers that present you with unicorns and then try to sell you donkeys. Here we want to set the record straight. We are upfront about our expectations so that you can expect reasonable results. All right, folks, with that said, quick heads up, just to let you know, I'm not your lawyer, I'm not your accountant, I'm not your CPA. For all you know, I'm just a knucklehead with a mic. So remember, take my words as friendly advice, not gospel. Always get your information double checked by the pros. Viewer discretion is advised, but those of you that have an entrepreneurial itch, scratch that itch. Viewer aggression is more advised. So let's get this show on the road. Today, folks, I have a real treat for you all. I normally have interviews with successful entrepreneurs and fellow loan brokers. So, for example, we just had an interview with the new loan broker out of Spokane, Washington, that just recently had a surge of success with organic outreach. We spoke with a prosperous real estate investor out of Oklahoma City, and we most recently had a successful mobile car detail shop out of Denver, Colorado. Each of them successful in their own right, but today I have a successful entrepreneur that's held her own for a considerable length of time, someone that I've received mentoring from, someone who I look up to and actually seek advice from to the present day. Miss Cheryl Tibbs, how are you doing today?
I'm good, Jose. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I appreciate your time. And again, I've been in this space for, give going on 3 years. I know you've got your footprint well established in the alternative lending space. I wanted to start maybe with your journey. How did you get started in this space? Where did that journey, how did it evolve, or was it always intended to be alternative lending? Here I come. I'm Cheryl Tibbs. Hear me roar.
Funny you ask. I actually was 12 years old, Jose, when I got my start in the finance space. As a kid, I was always intrigued with being an entrepreneur. Entrepreneur magazine was what I did in my spare time when I got home from school. I read all the pages of Entrepreneur magazine, and Entrepreneur magazine at the time, so many years ago, um, and they may still do it. They have these business in a box kits that you can order. And there was one in particular, a loan broker consultant, business in the box. I had my mom order it for me, and I got that thing, and I taught myself the money broker in business at 12 years old. Opened my first brokerage right before college. When I got out of school, um, I got in the mortgage business, and I stayed in the mortgage business probably about, I don't know, 20 years or so. I had a very successful mortgage companies, had a mortgage processing school, had a huge origination group that was nationwide. So I got my start in this alternative space, starting with the mortgage business. I was also a real estate investor as well. As fate would have it, cancer happened to me in late 2006. And in, I want to say 2007, 2008, the big bubble, 2007, 2008, the big bubble happened.
Right.
A lot of my colleagues got out of the mortgage business. I got out of the mortgage business. Um, it just was not as profitable as it had been when the good times were rolling good.
Right. Right.
So when the government, big government, got involved with mortgage lending, myself and, like I said, so many others got out of it. And I started looking at commercial finance around 2010. And so I'm going to say from about 2010 to present day, I've been actively involved in some realm of alternative commercial finance, whether that be investor mortgages or merchant cash advances. I spent probably, I don't know, I was doing merchant cash advances before they became known what they are today as being total revenue driven.
Got
When I was introduced to the space, First Data, and I'm telling my age, I know First Data was the big player then. And it was only by credit cards, receivables that a company could get a cash advance. And of course, that evolved into what we have now as a true revenue-based advance. So I've been in that space a long time and made the switch to equipment. And I know we've got a question about that down the road. So that's just kind of how I got my start. And, you know, like I said, started it like a lot of colleagues I know, started in the mortgage business, and here we are.
Awesome, awesome. But those, that's an eye-opening story. Those, I mean, you've just laid out details that I wasn't even aware of, and that just kind of adds to your aura, for lack of a better term. I had no idea that had you had those challenges in the past, and that just, my hat's off to you. That's awesome
Thank
that you
you.
were able to overcome all of that stuff. So when I first came across you and started following your business,
Hmm.
you were working under Equipment Lease Co. initially,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
And so what were some of the challenges that you faced in the, I guess, the early stages of not just entrepreneurship, but specifically in the alternative lending space? What were some of the challenges that you saw and that you overcame under Equipment Lease Co?
Well, I want to, when I got into the alternative space in 2010, my first company was One Stop Funding. One Stop Funding, again, was a merchant cash advance company. Brokerage is what we did. And that evolved into Equipment Lease Co. Back in 2018, I believe, I decided to carve off equipment financing from merchant cash advances, SBA loans, which is all the stuff that One Stop did. um, I started getting a lot of requests more for equipment than I did for anything. So instead of putting these people in high rate merchant cash advances, I figured out the equipment leasing space. And as far as challenges, I guess the biggest challenge, what really made us go from focusing so heavily on cash advance to primarily focusing on equipment, was backdooring. I had the first episode of backdooring that I can remember, late 2017, early 2018. And that was just it for me. And, you know, and I said, you know, there has to be a way for me to make as much money as I make with cash advances, doing some other type of lending where I don't have to worry about the griminess or, you know, the backdooring. And the merchant cash advance space is a grimy business. And I didn't really want to be in it that much and have to worry about my hard-earned work being taken from me by somebody up in New York talking to my customers, and you know, I lose out on commission. So hence we decided to go into the equipment financing space full force. We created the new company, still had One Stop because I still had those customers coming in for the cash advances. But Equipment Lease Co. was formed to primarily focus on equipment financing and lessen the headache or the worry about being backdoored. That's just not a thing with equipment financing.
Got it, got it, got it. Okay, so for those of you that are watching this, two key things that Cheryl just touched on. Number one, and this is selfishly something that I'm bringing up, the environment that you work in. That is one of the my primary focuses with BDA Solutions, is changing the culture, and it starts with us internally. So the people that I work with, people that are kind of under me, for lack of a better term, we focus on client first prerogatives. That is our goal, to make our clients' lives better. And that means really calling out the people that are doing the complete opposite. I completely agree with you. The MCA space is an ugly, ugly space. And one client at a time, one associate at a time. My goal is to try to change that culture and make it more, I guess, client focused, but also bring God back into the picture. because I really do think it's a big missing component, not only in
Mhm.
the space, but life in general. But I won't go down that rabbit hole. But the other thing, folks, she just brought up a big point. Listen to your customers. She was getting a lot of requests for other types of funding. And so that is something that she was able to carve out, implement, make it her own, and succeed in it. She wasn't force feeding something into a client that wasn't willing to take on those terms, take on that risk, take on that debt. So for those of you that are, whether you're a broker or whether you're an entrepreneur, keep that in mind. Always keep an ear to the market. Let the market dictate where you go. And then that will open up avenues that you would have otherwise had closed to you if you would have kept those blinders on. So thank you for that. Now, also, so now you went from One Stop to Equipment Lease Co. And now you're almost rebranding, and now you're under Commercial Capital Connect. So what prompted that shift in direction for your business?
Well, we still have One Stop. One Stop's, would be the flagship company.
Okay.
It's actually One Stop Commercial Capital. Um, the name Equipment Lease Co. came about because, again, I wanted to differentiate what we did with One Stop to just being equipment. Well, over the years, the name of that business confused people. We would get calls from prospective equipment buyers thinking that we sold equipment. It's Equipment Lease Co. is a very confusing name for a lot of people. So, and I wanted to, and as we started offering again other types of funding, at the end of 2023, I made a decision to rebrand into a name that just spoke to everything that we did. So
Sure.
I went back to combining our services, the cash advances, the SBA loans, the personal loans, all of that, and the equipment financing under one umbrella, so no one would question or be confused about what we do. Hence the name Commercial Capital Connect. I want to come across as an alternative lending marketplace. Um, and to be able to do that, a marketplace connects. And that's how I came up with the Commercial Capital Connect. I want to connect prospective borrowers or lessors with the funders. So that's how we came up with that. So I'm in the middle of rebranding so that both of my brands, Commercial One Stop and Equipment Lease Co., will now fall under Commercial Capital Connect.
Very nice. Okay, so we we're both participants in a very competitive space. Um,
Mhm.
the name of your company is really the first step towards introducing yourself in a new market, whether
Mhm.
it's a different area, maybe it's a different vendor, whatever it is. So that's the first step. Outside of that, how do you differentiate your brokerage to stand out in an overly competitive market when you're dealing with much larger, specifically much larger brokerages that might out leverage you with regards to resources? How does Commercial Capital Connect stand out?
Well, since the onset of me being in the space, we've taken the position of being the back office, so to speak, to smaller mom and pop broker shops. So from the very inception of me being in business, we've always worked as a super broker. And my company is a respected super broker in the equipment finance space as well as in the merchant cash advance space. I have large funders who are not onboarding brokers, but they will refer those brokers to me because of the experience and the relationships that I have. So, what sets me apart is experience and relationship. You can't be in this business without having key relationships. And I make it my business to engage those people who are going to put me in the best possible position to have good relationships so I can pass that on to the new brokers or to the mom and pop brokers who they've got a thirst for this business. They want to be salespeople. They don't want to deal with the back office. They don't have what's needed to be able to get approved with some of the large funding companies. So I want to be that resource for those brokers, and we've been doing it since 2010, and I'll continue to do it until I retire.
Very nice. Right. And that's one of the I guess most common for people that are just getting started. They're always asking like, okay, how do I sign up with direct lenders? Like how do I move away from it, working under some of these bigger or other well-known I guess other super brokers that don't operate with the same ethics and integrity that you do. They've established a horrible name for themselves on their own. So you separate yourself from that. But one of the bigger questions that I always receive is, well, who are your direct lenders? And how do I sign up with them? And one of the things that I'm always I feel like I'm one of the only people when I'm having these one-on-one discussions with them. I tell people it's just like having a direct lender is a result of experience, and a result of you being able to close on loans. If you aren't able to produce leads, if you aren't able to close on those leads, those direct brokers or those direct lenders are going to end the relationship with you if they were to
Absolutely.
take you on.
Absolutely.
So can you kind of elaborate a little bit on that? Because I kind of feel like that is it's an area that's often overlooked. Like people just want to leapfrog from
Yep.
0 to like a
Yep.
hundred,
Yep.
lenders underneath them, and it just doesn't work that way. It's a step-by-step process.
Exactly. And I'm gonna say this. Let me give a shout out to Will Murphy and Josh Feinberg with Everlasting Capital. And the reason I'm giving those guys a shout out is because when I made my transition from the working capital space to equipment lease code 2017, 2018, that was my only equipment funding partner. And Everlasting is a super broker. They taught me the equipment business by working with me as a new broker in the space, and they paid me fairly. They gave me good approvals. We never had an issue. I never asked them for a direct lender because what I understood, Jose, was that I had to walk before I could crawl. And I also understood from attending some of the national conferences, the direct equipment lenders that I wanted to get signed up with, they were not going to sign me up. I didn't have the portfolio. I didn't have the 3 references. I didn't have the experience. So it did me well to work under Everlasting for a couple of years to build up my business. When it was time for me to get approved with an A-paper equipment lender that wouldn't have otherwise taken me in, Everlasting gave me an awesome stamp of approval as being a broker that submitted good packages, that knew underwriting guidelines, and that could get a deal sold. And those are the important things. And I think that's where brokers mess up. I get people in my inbox all the time. Hey, I saw your video, blah, blah, blah. Who are your lenders? And I want to say, dude, are you freaking crazy? I'm a super broker, and this is how I make my money. My lender list, I'm not going to show it to you.
Right, 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 right.
This is my lender list. This isn't just one lender per page. This is guidelines. And so what sets me apart and what the reason that I protect my lenders, I've learned those guidelines. There isn't a deal that can come across my desk and I pull credit and I look at the guideline and I know exactly where I'm going to go with that deal because I understand that I've got to know what a lender will take. This is not like the MCA world where you just shotgun out an application and bank statements and just throw it on the wall and see if it sticks. Equipment lenders will cut your behind off. If your KPIs, if you're sending in deals that don't fit, you're never getting an approval, you get an approval, you're never closing a deal, that relationship is done. So what new brokers and brokers who do not have experience need to understand, stop asking about a lender. Understand what it takes to get a deal in and to process and properly package a deal. I was recently at the American Association of Commercial Finance Brokers conference, And I sat in on the broker's essential training. It went on for a whole day. It's the best training I ever had in my life. And for as much as I know, I learned so much more sitting in that class. One of the things that the sales trainer said that stuck with me, he said, the brokers who are successful, who are seeing the greatest success in the equipment finance brokerage space, are those who know how to properly package a deal. So brokers, and I'm talking to them, Jose, you're asking the wrong questions. The
Mhm.
questions that you should be asking, how do I properly package a deal that a funder will want to accept from me? That's first and foremost. Build up your portfolio so that you have something to present to a funder to make them want to do business with you. Because I can tell you, as long as I've been in the business, there's still a lot of funders out there that decline our broker application every time. We just don't have the millions of dollars in portfolio that's needed to get approved with those guys. So, that's, kind of how I guess I would address that one.
They're very good. I love it. Like, so that's one of the reasons why I've wanted to keep a relationship going with you, because I kind of
Mhm.
feel you have that level of experience and, I mean, flat out expertise when it comes to how to underwrite a loan and get that connection with the proper and appropriate lender
Mhm.
back end. One of the things that I'm also trying to do with the brokers that I'm working with on a monthly basis is to add another layer of the same quality of care, and that's on the front end, to make sure that the marketing that you are doing is very different from the marketing a lot of these brokers are going out there trying to do. And it's very general, very broad. It
Mhm.
doesn't speak to a particular audience. And
Mhm.
my brokers, the people that I've taken on, and flat out they're paying me on a monthly basis to teach them how to do proper outreach,
Mhm.
addresses pain points, because you want your message to be heard by the right audience up
Absolutely.
front, so that someone like you can come in, work with me, get that file into the correct hands, and that way everyone wins. Every stakeholder that is in that equation wins. And
Right.
it starts with, in my opinion, with the proper marketing message, because like I said in the
Absolutely.
introduction of this video, you don't want to present unicorns and then try to sell donkeys. Doesn't.
Absolutely. I totally agree. I totally agree. One of the things that we're doing in my office, we're probably 60% referral partner based as far as our origination, and that other 40% is what we do in-house. With our in-house marketing, we tackle pain points. We select an industry. For the next 3 to 4 months, we're targeting home health care industries. We've selected that industry. With the help of AI, I've studied the pain points of that industry as it relates to funding. How can capital help the home health care industry? I've learned more about the home healthcare industry than I probably care to even know. But what it did for me, Jose, was it allows me now to design marketing that exploits those pain points and provides solutions with capital or with equipment that those industries can use. So in our marketing, we don't say, no credit score, minimum credit score, blah, blah, blah. That's not important. A home healthcare agency doesn't want to hear that crap. They want to hear, how can you help me address staffing shortages?
Mhm.
So we, I'm asking for business for funding, but I'm going about it the way of where I'm speaking to the pain point and the language of that particular industry. So I applaud you for the turn that you've made with marketing and the decision that you've made to focus on pain points, because we're like doctors. You know what I'm saying? Customer comes to us with their chief complaint, and you've got to know how to diagnose
Yep.
that
Yep.
particular problem and make it relative to what you have in your tool belt. And I always say this, your tool belt is the type of funding products you offer: equipment loans, cash advances, term loans, lines of credit. Those are your tools. That's your prescription that you're going to give that business owner based on your diagnosis of his pain point. So that's a great strategy. Again, it's a strategy that we're employing in-house 100%.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, yeah, thank you for kind of backing up a little bit my claims, because people, I'm telling you, sometimes I feel like I'm trying to relay this message and it falls on deaf ears, because
Mhm.
it's really not appealing. I think newer brokers almost feel like they're going to take two steps back by doing the research that you did to get into the home health industry, because at that point you explore every single angle of that client avatar. And when they come to you, before, I mean, a lot of people, especially with the pain points, they don't, sometimes people aren't going to be direct.
Mhm.
They're not going to be, they don't want to disclose everything to you. And so if you are familiar with that avatar where you're almost speaking their language, they're going to drop hints during that conversation.
Yep,
You're going to be able to pick up on and say, hey, you know what? You don't have to say anything else. I know exactly what your problem is.
absolutely.
Here's what I'm going to do for you. And here's how it's going to solve the problem better than anyone else in the market.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
those are some of the the messages internally that I kind of feel people are wanting to avoid at all costs, because it is going to take a little bit more effort. It is going to take a little bit of more research. But I think on the long-term play, you and your client, more importantly, are going to benefit from that knowledge. And you're going to be able to present, and the entire process of selling is no longer going to be an issue, because you aren't selling a damn thing. You are now
Right.
presenting a solution.
Absolutely. I totally agree. And it just drives me bonkers when I hear new brokers saying, well, I paid XYZ for this program to teach me, about loan brokering. And I know how to run Facebook ads. Dude. And it just drives me bonkers because you're becoming a lead taker.
Yes. Or
Those people that have success in this business, we're consultants. And if you're a consultant, or if you know anything about consulting, that basically means that you're seen as the authority. So when a home healthcare agency owner comes to me, he or she sees me as an authority in what I do to be able to address their solution properly.
yep.
I'm not seen as a lead generator or a loan broker. I'm a partner, and I'm a partner who knows what I'm talking about. I've looked at your industry. I've uncovered everything I think I need to uncover about whatever it is that you do. I know how to start a home health care agency. I know how to run one. So if any question that you have, I can address it intelligently because I'm now seen as the authority.
I love it. Yeah, I love, and that's one of the I've also invested into some of these I don't want to call it sales training, but I mean that's in essence
Mhm.
what it is. And these individuals, I mean, I'll go ahead and say their names. It's big. They're big time names. Bradley, Andy Elliott, Patrick Bet David, Andy Frisella. Those guys have dominated their space. And the first thing that they're trying to get across to people is, number one, you aren't selling. You really don't want to get into the space where you have to sell things to people. You want to
Right.
help people along their journey. The second thing that they're almost constantly saying is, in order for you to become effective, in order for you to be in a particular space long term, you have to be able to adapt to your industry, to your client. And so you have to know how to lead them into a path, into a journey that's going to solve their problems, even though it's going to be tough to get started. It's like I have another love for the health industry. Fitness and health is one of my own personal staples. Um, and so it's just like getting started going to the gym. The first couple days, it's gonna suck ass, and you aren't gonna see any progress.
Mhm,
But you
mhm,
keep compounding on that activity, you're gonna start to see results after 50 days, after 100 days. You have to be able to lead yourself into those results. And as a consultant, as a capital consultant, you also have to take that same initiative and really tell people, hey, trust me, this is the best way. And
mhm,
I can show you based on either how I've been able to help other people in the past or by just using logic. This is your pain
mhm.
point. This is how we're solving it. This is what's going to come at the end of it. So,
Absolutely. And it's
thank you.
not instant, and a lot of people get in this business thinking it's a microwave business. Sure, you can close an MCA deal and get paid the same day, but is that who you want to be known as? Or are you trying to be known as an authority
Right.
and scale and grow into something respectable,
Exactly.
into becoming an authority in that particular industry? And that doesn't mean that you have to stay in that space. Next year, it might be the construction industry that you want to build your avatar, but the key word is
Right. Exactly.
build and scale. Those are the key words.
Awesome. Awesome. Yeah. Thank you. Okay. So we're kind of in the same line of conversation.
Mm-hmm.
If I was a brand new broker
Mm-hmm.
and I saw what you were doing in the space, I reached out to you and said, hey, you know what, Miss Tibbs, I would like to get started in this space. Are there personal qualities or attributes that you think are essential for someone to excel in this space as a consultant, and maybe even eventually building to become a brokerage owner? Or is there something that you would say, hey, you know what, this quality or attribute, that this is what's going to make you shine, and this is for sure something that you should act on?
Yeah, I mean, one word, man, is humility. I mean, you've got to be humble, and things come to you. Um, when new brokers reach out to me all the time. And I'm at a point in my career where I'm not training new brokers. I'm wanting old dogs so that I can teach them new tricks.
Like it.
And I have people that I'm connected to that I send those new brokers to. Go over here and get broken in. I don't have the bandwidth because a lot of them are coming to me with preconceived notions and ideas of how they want to do their business, and um, they've never closed a deal in their life. But the person that comes to me, the old dog that comes to me with an humble appearance, just an humble ambience. That's the word I'm looking for. That's the broker that I want to work with. You got to be humble and you got to be teachable. Even I've been doing this 25, 30 years in some aspect of funding. I'm teachable. I just said on national, video, I went to a conference, a broker essentials class for new brokers, and I learned crap that I didn't even know. So
Right,
you
right,
just
right.
got to be teachable and you got to be humble. And I think with those two characteristics, you're bound to see some success with this business.
Love it, love it, love it. So looking ahead, touching on your personal career,
Mhm.
you had alluded to retiring. Hopefully, from my point of view, that's not in the near future, but that's a benchmark that you are looking to hit. What are your goals and aspirations for the future of Commercial Capital Connect? And how do you plan on continuing to evolve and build, as we had talked about earlier, build on what you've already been able to accomplish in this industry?
Well, my long-term goal is to, be sitting by the beach and, having my cocktails and stuff.
Love it. Yup.
But I have a plan to retire from the day-to-day operations of my business, the funding business, next year, next summer. That's been a plan I've had for the last 2 to 3 years, and it's a plan that I'm working on. I am training successors. I have some old dogs that I'm teaching new tricks to that can come in, that can step in and learn from my model and be able to take over the day-to-day operation. We are putting in place some large scale, some big stuff that's coming down the pipe for those brokers who are interested in learning equipment. We've got some big stuff coming. And I'm partnering with some old dogs that I can trust to come in and just help me scale that and take over the day to day. I would eventually like to see, brokers coming in with a different attitude, a different attitude about how to make money and really wanting to become a consultant in this space, because that's longevity.
There it is.
That's what's going to make you last.
There it is. And I, not to jump in on your conversation. I just recently had a group of brokers that I spoke to, and one of the things that I'm hammering on to try to solve for my business is this concept of customer retention. Every single industry, every single business is hammering this out.
Mm-hmm.
But it's something as transactional as a burger at McDonald's
Mm-hmm.
are doing things to keep you coming back. And it has more to do than just the quality of their product or service. In the food space, they're developing apps that will reward you with points that are going to expire, that you
Mm-hmm.
open it up and you're like, oh shit, I gotta go back, I go get my food.
Right.
That brings you back. And so
Mm-hmm.
one of the things that I'm teaching my students how to do is how to establish a model, because within the alternative lending space, the retention percentage is under 5%.
Mm-hmm.
Once you fund a client, that client is gone.
Mm-hmm.
Brokers do a horrible job of trying to
Horrible.
keep a long-term relationship with those people. And so I'm helping people establish a business model that will keep that KPI of customer retention at a all-time high. So
Yeah,
that
because
way,
what happens, especially with the NCA space, and you know this from personal experience, we've discussed it. Once you fund a customer, they're free game
yep,
to the entire world. I mean, you even got call centers overseas that's now calling that customer to give him a second and a third and a fourth.
right.
This is where you being a consultant comes into play, because that customer trusts that you have the best intention for them. And so they're not going to listen to every phone call, every email, because they know that Jose is my guy. That's who I'm working with. I don't care if this company's offering me $1 million. Jose is my guy. You've established that relationship with their customer. And so many times we see brokers who they fund a deal, they make 10 points, they make 12 points, and that's all they care about. They're going on to the next. They don't care that about retaining this customer. Because here's what, I think I told you guys this when we first started class, or in the training program that you took with me. That customer comes in and you solve that temporary solution by giving them that cash advance. It is your job to stay in front of that customer, because They may not need a cash advance next time. They may need to buy a piece of equipment. And then that piece of equipment may turn into buying a building. So you've got levels
Yep.
to your customers because you've maintained relationship, you've retained that customer, and you've seen that customer's business grow through the years. So anytime that customer needs anything that has to do with financing, Jose is my guy. So that retention point is key.
Yep.
It's very key.
And not only that, but what we're trying to do is help people understand that, okay, absolutely, we were able to get that first deal done. I've proven to you with results that I can get you the funding that you qualify. Now, maybe not necessarily the type that you wanted, but the type that you qualified for. The retention methods that we are implementing not
Mhm.
only hopes that people will come back to us, but the consultant is actually involved on a month-to-month basis with the client and making almost by mandatory contact with the client to not only offer additional services, but actually to come back and report results.
Mhm.
Will keep them under your umbrella
Yep.
and have that lifetime value of your client be a one-time transaction to now possibly having, hopefully helping them up to 5 different times in 5 different categories.
Absolutely.
Their business evolves.
Absolutely. That's good
So
stuff.
thank you. No, and I can't thank you enough for your time. I
Oh, not a
really
problem.
do. I appreciate not only your time, but also your feedback. You're one of the people and one of the very few people of the space where I originated. You're probably the only one that I've always hopefully kept a handout to, and I know that life has happened, and we haven't been able to keep as interactive with each other as I would have liked, but as long as you're on the same boat that I am, Miss Tibbs, thank you for everything so far, and I hope that we our paths will cross in more than one way. In
Absolutely. Absolutely. You've always been one of those old dogs I've tried to teach new tricks to. And like I've told you, my door is always open. Just ask. There's a welcome mat always for you.
Thank you, I
Um,
appreciate that.
I wish you nothing but, good success, much success, and jumping on this call to you today, I'm honored.
Thank you.
And even humbled that you would even, think enough of me to ask me to appear before your audience. So anything you need,
Yeah,
I'm there.
all 2 people that are watching this, Miss Tibbs, they're applauding you and they're saying thank you. So there you have it, folks. Again, thank you so much for joining us on this latest episode of the Broker Insider. Again, we're here to give you upfront, honest, transparent information, not only for brokers but also business owners. Know the establish that relationship with whoever it is that you're working with. If you need equipment financing, Miss Tibbs is the lone shark in that pond. She can take care of you unlike any other. If those of you that need working capital, if you wouldn't mind reaching out to me, I would definitely see what I can do to help you. Not only again with your funding need now, but we're gonna help paint that picture to get you to where you really want to be. So, folks, again, thank you. I appreciate your time. Thank you for watching, and until the next time, take action.